From Bengaluru to Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, Asia's vibrant cities are moving fast but not always forward. Every rush hour tells the same story: tech booms, ballooning car ownership, and roads that just can't keep up. Some data suggests Bengaluru in India has the third slowest traffic in the world. In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, surveys show drivers there spend roughly 160 hours a year stuck in traffic, burning more than $200 in fuel just idling. I'm Genevieve Woo, and joining me today are correspondents Ishan Garg in New Delhi and Afifah Ariffin in KL. I'll also be sharing Singapore's story, where decades of planning have helped keep traffic largely in check. Guys, thanks for joining me. Both Bengaluru and Kuala Lumpur are success stories, booming economies, expanding suburbs, and thriving industries. But that very growth is what's jamming the roads. Let's start with you, Ishan. We often talk about traffic numbers, right? Delays, kilometers, lost hours. But beyond that, how do commuters actually feel about the gridlock? How does it affect the stress levels, productivity, even mental health?
Bengaluru's traffic problem is actually quite well known. So even inside Bangalore, of course, people are familiar with it. They're living it day in, day out. But across India, that's one of the things that people have against Bangalore, against moving to Bangalore, that the traffic can be really problematic there. When we spoke to people in Bengaluru, it was odd because they had made their peace with the problem, and yet everybody understood that this is not normal. You can't be spending close to 40 minutes in commute, traveling just 10 kilometers. And yet, because they'd made their peace with it, they found ways to work around it. So because Bengaluru is a massive tech hub, a lot of IT sector employees, they now start working from home for 3 days a week. And when on the 2 days that they do have to commute, they try and get a lot of their work done while sitting in the back of a cab. That's not an ideal situation, but that's how they are coping. There are two very starkly different stories in Bengaluru. When you speak to high-earning IT employees, they have found ways to cope. But when you speak to their drivers, who spend 6 hours, 7 hours a day idling in traffic, it's a completely different story. They tell us that it certainly affects their mental health. It generally makes them feel unhappy quite a lot of the time while on the roads. And even beyond that, there are instances of people who have complained of issues like back problems in their hips, some even considering medical treatment for it. So the effects go far beyond the 700,000 lost hours of productivity. It's very much a mental health as well as a physical health issue there.
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? Because success shouldn't just be, about those hours. Afifah, what about the story in KL? Is it similar?
Yeah, I think it's a very similar story to what we've heard from Ishan. I think in Kuala Lumpur, where a lot of the offices of the Central Business District is in downtown KL, near the KLCC area. So commercial buildings are all there, and, people start going into the city. Sure, there's Putrajaya, which is the administrative capital, so your civil servants are there. A lot of the corporate offices, the headquarters, are still in the city center. So we often hear about people who live in the suburbs, about 5 to 10 to 15 kilometers out, traveling into the city. And KL has a lot of highways. Post-COVID, we're seeing the congestion come back, and we're seeing more people stuck in jams. And my friends often tell me how they can spend an hour and a half every morning just driving that 10 kilometers into the city. I mean, they've made a whole routine out of this, right? My girlfriends tell me they put their makeup on in the car and, had a little me time, meditate and all that. But being stuck in gridlock traffic, moving inch by inch, is not something that is, particularly enjoyable to experience day to day.
Ishan, you've traveled recently to Bengaluru for this story. Bengaluru's, like you said, it's famous. The tech boom has brought jobs and wealth. And of course, that gridlock. When did the city's traffic problems, tip from busy to unbearable?
The old-timers of Bengaluru, they still remember that as a city which was famous for being the retirement hub of India. Mm-hmm. So folks from across the country would go to Bangalore, find a nice little villa for themselves or a patch of land, and they would retire there because the weather there is amazing. And then in the 1990s, the IT boom kicks in, and you have three of the biggest Indian tech conglomerates, Infosys, Wipro, and Tata Consultancy Services, set up head offices there. And since then, we've seen IT companies start pivoting towards Bangalore, because when those first 3 tech companies set up shop there, with them also came in a lot of educational institutions that were pumping out engineers year by year. It became a massive talent hub. We've seen the city go from being this retirement paradise to the Silicon Valley of India. What did not happen in those past few years is, as the city was growing, we saw instances where one part of the city was immaculately planned, clearly laid out in grids. You did not have any problem with traffic, but there are patches of the city where it just grew organically. A road commissioned here, a tower commissioned there, and it kind of became a patchwork of very neatly, very organized grid pattern city, and some parts of the city completely unplanned, swerving road, serpentine-like highways, just trying to cut across the problem that's been created organically over the years. And this is something that Bangalore is still struggling with today.
But the authorities did realize that this was going to cause a problem, right? So the metro, there was investment in the metro, in the railway, and it's seen as the city's big hope. Can you tell us more about the plans for the metro system?
The latest round of metro construction, which is the phase 3 of Namma Metro, it can be an absolute lifeline. The proposed line goes through the very busiest tech hubs inside the city. So when we spoke to engineers, while traveling in their cabs, they look up at that construction and say, that's going to save our lives one day. But the project's delayed. It's been delayed several times, and now we understand that it'll probably be completed by 2026 or even early 2027. And this is not the first time it's been delayed. Overall, the metro connectivity in Bengaluru is not amazing. It started way back in 2011, but it never quite touched the busiest parts of the city. And that's what the people there are hoping that it will now, in this third phase, help rectify. When we spoke to the local officials there, they say that they also find it troublesome to acquire land because real estate is so expensive. But they now want to dig in below the roads, create more road infrastructure, and that hand in hand with the metro construction can help alleviate the traffic issues. The problem, of course, remains money. So we spoke to Congress spokesperson Anil Tadkal, who told us about how they're going to bring in a new authority called the Greater Bengaluru Authority and try and counter this problem.
We will basically take the help with the PPP model, public partnership model. We will also basically help in getting the funds from the central grants as budgetary allocations, because it is a Silicon Valley of the country.
Here in Singapore, the government too also invested in a rail system. We built the first MRT, the public rail, in 1983. Even back then, it faced strong opposition due to high costs. But it was pushed through and it's been working so far. But it continues to come at a price. For instance, the MRT network has faced more than a dozen disruptions this year. The government has pledged $1 billion over the next 5 years to renew older lines. So for Singapore to keep cars population controlled, it has to offer a reliable public transport option despite the high running costs of maintenance. Now, Afifah, for Kuala Lumpur, the story is a little different, isn't it? It's built for cars first. And now it's trying to reverse that. Tell us a bit about how KL's reputation as a car-first city started, and how has that led to entrenched mindsets of considering public transport?
Well, that's right. I mean, Kuala Lumpur and by extension, the whole of Malaysia was built around cars and not people. So the roads came first and then everything else was planned around them. The city's layout itself encourages driving. We see wide highways, it cuts across neighborhoods, suburbs, and public transport coverage is very patchy and disconnected. There's a huge first and last mile problem. So in Malaysia, owning a car isn't just about convenience. It's really a necessity. And there's also been historically decades of car-friendly policies that push because of car manufacturing, local car manufacturing brands, Proton, Perdua. And these are national policies that have been put in place. There's also a lot of fuel subsidies that have been given, highway expansions, and all of these have sort of shaped KL into becoming a driver's city. So the urban sprawl is another thing, malls, offices, housing, it's far apart. It makes it very difficult to move around without a car. And Malaysia's development model has long been equated with the progress of highways. For example, if you look at the North-South Highway, which stretches from the southern state of Johor all the way up to the northern side nearing Thailand, that is a symbol of national growth for the country. So public transport here isn't a first choice for people. It's really the backup plan. And cars here are seen as freedom.
But it's not just about freedom, right? It's also about a symbol of success, isn't it? Car ownership in Malaysia.
That's right. I mean, almost all households in Malaysia have at least one car, if not 2, 3, 4, 5. My friends have 3, 4 cars. Every single member of their family has a car to drive around because to them it's completely necessary.
To address the gridlock, Malaysian authorities has turned to technology, haven't they? They're using AI cameras, smart traffic systems to promote a smoother flow. Tell us what are the government's plans for this?
That's right. So there's a move for KL especially, and then other major cities in Malaysia, Penang, Kuching, for example, to move into smart cities. There's a lot of use of new technology like AI, for example. So here in KL, what they've done is that they've created this KL C3 or the KL Command Center. It's an integrated center that really has 5,000 cameras all across the city. They have a team 24 hours monitoring the situation. It does more than just look at traffic. It also is able to detect flash floods as well. We know that there are more than 10 million registered cars here in Malaysia, and more than 1 million of them come into the city on a daily basis. So there is really a need to monitor all of that.
And have you noticed like a visible difference on the ground with these
Not
systems
so
in
much.
place?
I think even the traffic experts I've been speaking to tell me that progress is incremental, and technology like AI is a tool, but it's not the end all for this. It's not the complete solution. What's truly needed is that shift in mindset and, greater public transport infrastructure and getting people to move from car ownership to using public transport. That's still a very long game for the country, though.
Reversing a car-first mindset is not easy, especially it's also, culturally linked. Singapore had a bit of a head start on this. We also had a car ownership spike in the 1980s when the country's economy was really picking up. But the government moved fast to nip that. We implemented the certificate of entitlement and the electronic road pricing. They weren't popular policies, but they worked. It kept traffic in check. Today, owning a car in Singapore costs over $100,000. And while most Singaporeans accept it, the price of mobility is testing patience. So again, that's where investment in public transport is critical. So Afifah, KL wants to double public transport use by 2030. So what needs to change beyond, like hardware, like buses and trains? Are we talking about walkways, safety, even like, shaded walkways?
2030 is in 5 years' time. That's actually going to fly by quite fast. And, if we're talking about building infrastructure, it's going to take a much longer time than that. What's the problem now is, like you said, there aren't enough sheltered walkways, so people don't want to walk to the MRT stations. What we're seeing is that people drive from their homes to the MRT station to park there, take the MRT into the city, come back, and then, take their cars back home. So that's not truly solving the problem of having cars on the roads. There needs to be a solution to this first and last mile issue. And this is something that, when I was speaking to the KL mayor, was something that she recognized, and she said that the city needs to improve. I was just telling her about my own situation where I live. Very near the office. It's just about a 5 minutes walk away. But I myself can't even cross the road because it's a major highway in between. There are no traffic lights. There's no overhead bridge. So walkability in this city it's something that needs to be seriously looked at. So even though I'm a 5 minutes walk away, I still need to take a Grab to the office, which takes me 10 minutes because it goes one big round. So not only am I wasting time, I'm also wasting a lot of money. So this is something that, she and I spoke about, how she wants to have more integrated developments. She wants to create more sheltered walkways. She wants to improve the number of buses on the road. So let's listen in to my conversation with the KL Mayor, Datuk Maimuna.
What we need is integrated planning, integrated land use, and also integrated economics planning. One of my priority is to connect this first mile and the last mile in terms of this green connector, meaning that nice pavement, uninterrupted, seamless pavement for us to walk.
Moving ahead for Singapore, CNA transport reporter Claudia Lim found out that the next big thing for us here, the next big leap is cultural, not so much infrastructural. Now, under the Land Transport Master Plan 2040, Singapore's goal is car-light, walkable city, repurposing roads for pedestrians and cyclists, and building a transport system that's as inclusive as the population ages. Here's what Edmund So of the Land Transport Authority says.
Singapore is a small country of about 700 square kilometers in land, of which 12% is already used for roads. Given this land scarcity, the LTA's priority is to deliver a sustainable, inclusive and efficient transport based on public transport and active mobility modes. To achieve this, we are expanding and enhancing our bus and rail network connectivity, our network of sheltered linkways and cycling paths, as well as promoting safer and more accessible public streets.
That's Singapore's long game, 2040 master plan. But for Bengaluru and Kuala Lumpur, what's the one shift that you think that needs to happen to break the gridlock? Ishan.
Officials say that their priority is going to make the city a lot more walkable. People in Bengaluru, if they listened to Afifah's account of what she faces in Kuala Lumpur, they're going to say, we face the exact same thing. The roads are not walkable, there are barely any bicycle lanes. And that's what the government says that they are going to do. They're going to make the city more pedestrian-friendly, more bicycle-friendly. And we are seeing early indications of that. The Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka State, he's taken over the portfolio of managing urban infrastructure in Bengaluru, which suggests that there is a very high degree of priority been given to Bengaluru's traffic. But it's a question of how soon that can happen, because when we spoke to urban planners, they say this is a 25, 30-year project.
For KL, I think it's very much similar, and it's a two-pronged approach, right? Commuters need to change their mindsets. They need to be able to be okay with taking public transport, and so they need to see the benefits of doing so. And on the government side, then they need to make that commute for people to be a lot more comfortable and accessible and just easier in nature, so that it would discourage them from, driving their cars into the city. There's also the consideration of putting in place taxes. So beyond highway tolls, perhaps a congestion tax to drive cars into the city. Whether all of this will work is something that transport experts we spoke to say it remains to be seen. I mean, like I said, that 5-year goal, 5 years is going to move by really fast.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. It's great having your analysis. Bengaluru's metros, Kuala Lumpur's AI cameras, Singapore's road pricing, 3 cities tackling the same gridlock from different lanes. Real progress, perhaps, isn't just about faster roads, but fairer movement, making room for everyone. Till the next time, thanks for riding along with us. Stay patient in traffic and curious on the journey. I'm Genevieve Woo, and this CNA Correspondent podcast was brought to you by Clara Ong, Tiffany Ang, Nat Vetavero, Junaini Johari, Pei Ning Ho, and me, Genevieve Woo. Bye for now.